It's day 2 of our Festival of Fishing. We bring you 11 hours of top-class angling here at Cudmore Fisheries in the heart of the Staffordshire countryside. Today, it's FishOMania, the International. Well, it's a little bit different from the individual competition where it's about competing for yourself. This is about competing for your nation against some of the very, very best. We have, as always, our face of fishing, Keith Arthur, in the studio, and a man who knows what it's like to win world championships, Alan Scott, on a legend of the fishing world. This is amazing, isn't it? This is completely different to yesterday, as we found out last year in the internationals.
Totally different. The rules are different, the styles of fishing are different, the baits are different, the action is the same, but they're just they're fishing as a team, and Alan will confirm it's such a different sport when you're fishing as a team unit rather than for yourself. What's
it like to have the 3 lions on the shirt, to be out there representing England?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it's all right, there's a lot of pressure, you know, that builds up around us because obviously we're so successful and everybody wants to beat Team England.
The second day of FishOMania. The juniors are just starting behind us. They'll have £1,000 to compete for. The internationals is a little like the individuals in that around 7 minutes past the hour we will have a weigh-in, and like yesterday it's the cumulative total of those half-hourly weigh-ins that wins the title. The juniors finish at 4 o'clock, and at around 5 this afternoon we'll find if anybody has managed to beat England at their own game, and the presentation on the podium at 5. Confirmation of what's at stake, £10,000 to the international federations for the champions of FishOMania. The junior champion, well, not bad, all these teenagers, one of them is going to take home £1,000, and anybody around the lake today can take home £1,000 for the biggest fish. It could be one of the internationals, one of the legends of the sport, or one of the up-and-coming youngsters. Right, let's make things official and hear from the voice of angling, our master of ceremonies, John McDonald.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Cudmore Fisheries, where Barry Hearn's Matchroom Sport proudly present the Betway International FishOMania. And it's time now to get the action underway. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's all in!
As you can see, the perfectly circular lake. And explain how this pans out this afternoon, Keith.
And what we've got is 16 pegs around the lake. 2 anglers will be next to each other, then there's a gap of a peg, then another 2 anglers. So every angler has got exactly the same amount of water in front of them, and it really is as fair as you can make a match fishing situation. The main event is around here, pegs 1 to 16, and you can see there by the positions of the pegs, you've got 2 together and then a gap. And they'll be looking to use their spare water, the water in the biggest amount of gap they've got, because that's where the fish will run to for sanctuary.
As we say every time, it doesn't look as 11 and 12 look as though they're together, but they are equally spaced out around the lake.
We can't get our man on the top of the cherry picker to hang over the middle of the island.
We need one of those zip ropes like the World Cup, don't we, to go over the top. Yesterday, the hot peg was over on the left-hand side there as we're looking, peg 3, wasn't it? It was between 2 and kind of 7 yesterday. Yeah, the fish were in that area. The wind was blowing that way. It's blowing slightly differently today. It's blowing more in towards 11 and 12. I mean, it's difficult to be precise, but the wind is more that area now, and it's much stronger than it was yesterday. It's much cooler than it was yesterday, and it's much more cloudy than it was yesterday. That makes a huge difference. Yesterday they were all in their shorts and sunglasses. Today they've had to get wrapped up. Let's join first of all Rachel Brooks.
Yes, thank you. Welcome down to the lake here for FishOMania International. Now on peg number 1 is a man who needs no introduction, but he's going to get one anyway, Des Shipp. And already I've seen him putting a fish into his net, just a small bream so far. But Des, of course, 35 years experience. Wasn't here last year, but he was here 2 years ago for the Home International, which of course he won. He is, as you were mentioning, a little bit concerned about the wind direction, but it is sending the fish in that sense round to his teammate Will Raisin at peg 9. Now peg number 2 here is a new country and a new face to FishOMania. Adam Niemiec, he's an angling journalist from Poland, said he wasn't quite sure what to expect from this venue, more used to the natural waters, but he also already has a fish in that net for Poland. Moving round to peg number 3, it's a familiar country to the event, but it's a new face to this venue, Dieter Friedrichs from Holland, and he was saying he also isn't quite sure how he's going to fish this commercial venue, this commercial lake, because he's used to the canals, of course, of Holland. but he is hoping for some success here, in a good spot here, and also his teammate's got a great spot as well, hasn't he? And then we move to peg number 4, and on peg number 4 we have Robert Odeyi from Hungary. Now they of course were here last year, Robert was here too, they came 6th, and he said they learnt lessons from that. He's got a plan for today. He said the cooler temperatures, he's going to start by fishing the bottom and hope that reaps rewards for Hungary on peg number 4. Andy Ford is at peg 5.
Thanks, Rachel. Very different conditions today here on this section. Jamie Masson's just shipped his pole back right behind us, but just behind me, peg 5, Gilles Courdin of France. Now, this is the first time that Gilles has experienced this type of venue in commercial fishing. He's a very, very experienced angler at a very highest level. He's fished 15 times for France, has won the world team gold for France as well in Belgium. He's a very, very highly rated angler, has been fishing all of his life. In fact, started representing France when he was just 10 years old at junior level. On peg 6, Jamie Masson, a very familiar face in these sort of venues. Jamie has fished 9 times for Scotland in World Championships. He's been one of the most consistent, most reliable commercial anglers too. The 2 styles of fishing you'll see today and yesterday, very different. Jamie is good at both of them, in fact great at both of them, wins an awful lot of matches. So keep an eye on Jamie Masson today on peg 6. We've got a long walk between 6 and 7. On peg 7 for Ireland, he's the Ireland representative, is Nick Howell. Now Nick's English, born in Epsom in Surrey, but lives in Ireland. He's been living in Ireland for 15 years. He's married an Irish girl and represents Ireland now. He's fishing this match. It's the 2nd time he's been here too, and he's also in the Irish team, the full international team, which will fish in the World Championships in Croatia later on in the year. And on the end of this section, on peg number 8, is Lee Edwards, who's fishing for Wales. Now Lee won the first ever teams of 4 international here at Cudmore. He's a very experienced commercial angler and actually fishes in the normal FishOMania qualifiers. The match that you saw yesterday, Lee has been trying to get into that final for several years on peg 8, so keep an eye on him too. The wind is blowing straight into his peg 2. Let's have a little wander over and see what Rob's up to on peg 9.
Yeah, Andy, I've met a very, very lucky guy today because I get to see up close and personal the undoubted superstar of FishOMania 20, the international competition last season. It's on peg 9, England's Will Raisin. Now, this is a former world champion, a 6-time world team champion as well. But what he did here last year is still a matter of fishing folklore. England were losing, and then last minute and a half, Will Raisin brought in 2 big carp in the last minute and a half or so. It was quite extraordinary. He could get 2 big fish in like that quickly to win the competition for England. Not surprised there's a big, big crowd all directly behind Will Raisin today, all eyes on him, including our Polish competitor on peg 10. It's Wojtek Kaminski, who is a former team world champion, a former junior world champion himself, but he's told me he's going to be watching an awful lot of what Will Raisin does because he's not used to this sort of fishing on a commercial lake like this. It'd be fascinating to see what sort of tactics he can use. A lot of watching going on of what Will Raisin's doing. He's matched him so far in the technique he started with. If we move over to peg 11, we come over to the Dutch angler, Jurgen Spearings. Now this guy tells me he's quiet, he's an observer, and apparently that matches his angling style. He's very much a stalker. He'll be looking for the big carp out there and see if he can snare 1 or 2 of them to keep his team tickling along. Lastly, for me, on peg 12, we've got Hungary's Zsolt Brichter. Now this guy, a young guy, he's more used to perhaps the natural lakes and the natural rivers of Hungary than he is this sort of commercial fisheries again, but a very, very talented angler. And I'll be honest with you, his English is about as good as my Hungarian, so something of a dark horse. What will he try? What will he do? How successful will he be? Fascinating to watch, but surely all eyes on Will Raisin of England on peg 9 and how well he can do. Let's talk to Rob Hughes now, who can sum up the last 4 pegs for us.
Well, thank you, Rob. We have the last 4 here. We'll start off with number 13 just behind me. It certainly isn't unlucky for the man from France. This is Jean Desque. Now, this man has been around the track more than once. He's very, very capable. He's won club internationals. He's won almost anything, actually. Just very, very, very capable. However, he's not fished this style on this venue before. So it will be quite interesting. From Fontainebleau, lovely part of the world, hasn't been to Cudmore before. A man that has is this gentleman here, Davy Corcoran from Scotland. Now representing Scotland, I think, on 4 occasions here. Doesn't fish commercials. There's only 3 or 4 commercial venues up in Scotland, so it isn't really his style of fishing. And he did say to me earlier that a big trip to him to a commercial venue to practice is a trip down south. Where is down south? Well, it's actually North Yorkshire. We'll trot on to another guy here that doesn't have this style of commercial fishing back in his home country. This is Ireland's Vincent Walsh. Been here 4 times before, knows the score, and will be desperate to try and knock England off that first place position, as indeed will this man here. He's a compatriot of mine, he's a Welshman. It is Darren Frost, local lad to me actually up in North Wales, and he's used to fishing commercial waters. Fishes here occasionally, hasn't practiced as they're not allowed to on these regulations, but if anybody is going to try and knock England off that top spot, it is the Welsh wizard on the end. You'll notice a barrier that separates the main 16 pegs from the junior competition next door. There's 6 young lads over there, and looking after that section is Ali Shaw.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed. Well, we've got a lot of talent here with the juniors, so we'll start by talking you through them. And Cameron Cross is on peg number 1, and that, of course, is where Emma Pickering won in the ladies yesterday. So he is hoping that she'll have left at least a few fish there for him this afternoon. And Cameron cites amongst his top achievements is coming 3rd in the junior nationals, but also being here today. Jordan Holloway is on peg number 2, and earlier this year Jordan won the Whiteacre Junior Festival. Now he actually won on both days, meaning that he took maximum points. Dalton Mullinger is on peg number 3, and he says that he can't pick out a decent peg to save his life. But you know what? He's off the mark already. He's got himself a pretty decent sized looking carp, so let's just see how that pans out for him. Peg number 4. Harry Spike Monroe, nickname H, black belt in karate, hates waking up on a school day and discovering that it's not the weekend. Thoroughly looking forward to this afternoon. Zach at Summerscales is on peg number 5, and he's been fishing since he was 5, and Zach won his first adult club match at the tender age of 14, so we'll be keeping a close eye on him. Last but certainly not least is Liam Miller, and Liam is the current Angling Trust Under-18 national champion, so that is your juniors. We'll be keeping you across them.
Well, Des Shipp got off to an absolute flyer, hasn't he? I mean, he's an angling consultant, clearly knows what he's talking about, and like a lean, well, a fishing machine, if not so lean these days.
We started off in the same manner, both me and William, last year. But of course, the difference this year is if the carp have not fed early, which I mean, last year Jamie Mason and Lee Edwards both got off to a flying start catching carp. So we had to make a decision to change quite early and fish for these fish. But if you know, if they hadn't caught these carp, we'd have plugged away more on this line, such as what Des is doing, and I'm assuming William's doing the same as well. So they can relax and just catch fish now and watch what happens during the match. If carp don't start feeding, they'll get a bit of a lead, I'm sure. When you say we, you're kind of 8 pegs apart, aren't you? You've got Mark Addy as the team manager out there as well. Is it a collective thing, or does Mark make the big decision?
Des just looks a carp on his skimmer gear.
This, I mean, he could have foul up this fish. It might. Yesterday there were quite a few fish foul upped on that line.
As soon as he hooked it, he put those 2 extra joints on. He got it out of his swim, got it away from his feed, and it also just gets. He's fishing much lighter tackle than anybody would have been fishing yesterday. Is your no 12 hook length? Do you think? Which £2 break?
Yeah, I mean normally he fishes 11.7. Double strength as an hook length. Whether he's using that today, I would imagine he is, but it just gives you a chance to land a bigger fish as well.
That's coming like a dog on a lead.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hooks in the mouth makes such a difference.
I mean, already I've said that yesterday there weren't a carp hooked on bottom, so this is going to be completely different. I'm sure that, you know, these fish now they've. Probably because it rained, now they've dropped down onto the bottom. There'll be more fish caught.
The rain will make a difference in more than one way, and there were loads and loads of flies hatching yesterday, and I'm convinced that's what those fish were eating. As the bloodworms were hatching on the bottom, they were coming up as pupae, popping out on the surface. That must have been like swimming in food soup. Today, it's entirely different. There's no flies about, none at all.
Well, there's Des over on peg 1 who's got off to an absolute fly, and as we say, it's a team event. Last year, England won it with a combined 67 kilograms. Will, who's there on peg 9 today, got 50 kilograms of that. But it's important that you work together and you keep an eye on each other, isn't it? And these two are on either side of the lake.
Yeah, and there's... What's that? Is that?
That looked like a barbel.
It did look like a barbel. Yeah. It is a barbel.
Yeah.
It's a rare barbel these days, isn't it?
Well, they're old fish. They're 20 years old now. And everybody says there's none left, but it just shows.
If any of the lads watch this that fish the FishOMania final, they must think they're on a different lake, because, you know, I think because it doesn't get fished on a Friday, that the fish don't know what bait is. They forget what bait is going in the lake. And of course, the anglers on the Saturday pre-bait almost for this match for us.
Over on peg 5, Gilles Cordan, if I could ask Grant to do the honours. This is Grant Wild, by the way, who's our steward today. Grant's actually the captain, or rather the manager of the Army fishing team, so he knows his way around a fishing match or two. Gilles has never fished on this sort of commercial fishery before. He started off quite well, catching lots of very small silverfish. It looks like there's a load of roach and perch in there as well, but also a byproduct of that, he's managed to snare the first carp in the section. There have been a few fish caught elsewhere, so both Nick Howell and Lee Edwards have done okay. So far, next door to Gilles is Jamie Masson of Scotland, and Jamie is as yet to have a fish. You can see there you've got one carp and several silverfish, little tiny skims or something. 1 second, I think Bob's just going to tell us what the weight is.
1 kilo 710.
So Gilles Cordan of France, 1 kilo 710. Over to Rachel.
Yes, well, I'm here with Des Shipp now on peg 1. If Mike and Barry just want to weigh the net for Des for England, so that was 1 kilo 960 for Will Raisin. This will be added to that to make the cumulative England team total. We know already there's a carp in there. We saw that. He was getting the smaller ones just before that, and then it went quiet for a few minutes and the carp came along and he managed to land it. So we'll have a look at what's in this net. Looks a pretty decent net from Des Shipp here. I think this is probably going to be the biggest catch so far. Adding to that 1,960 of Will, of course, as they put those into the net to be weighed. Des has been very consistent so far this morning, been really, really busy. Look at that enormous carp. It's going to be a big total, we think, for Des Shipp on peg 1. Last of the fish goes in. Let's put that on the scales and have a look. As Barry loads it onto the scales, let's see what he adds. 1 kilo 960 is added to 2.
Five kilos, 160 grams.
5 kilos, excuse me, 160 grams for Des Shipp to add to Will Raisin's total for Team England.
A reminder that we have 10 weigh-ins during the course of the afternoon. Every half an hour we have a weigh-in. The first weigh-in has come and England have the best combined weight so far. Des Shipp has 5.16 kilos. Added to Will Raisin's 1.96 gives them a magical total so far of 7.12 kilos. Ireland have got off to an okay start. Nick Howell, representing Ireland, has got just under 2 kilos. Of course, he is alongside Vinnie Walsh. They're currently in second place. Hungary and Poland, 33-1 outsiders. Their first visit to this particular area, that the anglers that are representing him today. And poor old Scotland have made a disappointing start to an international competition.
That's quite interesting. Des's fish already look like they're starting to get a little bit smaller, and you know, this is what happened yesterday. The few good fish that were caught early, then backed off, and it was just replaced by some smaller fish. It'll be interesting to see what happens as the day goes on today.
Peg 9, Will Raisin. Got 1.96 kilos in the first half an hour, probably a couple of minutes away from the second weigh-in of the afternoon. And they're playing exceptionally well as a team. The Dutch team had a combined 1.98 kilos. And, as we found out yesterday, every tiddler counts. Individually, of course, he would be in 7th place if it were an individual event, but Holland are currently in third place. England leading, Ireland second, Wales third. Scotland and Hungary are in 7th and 8th position. Scotland yet to actually come up with anything in one of the half-hourly weigh-ins.
Absolutely. Vincent Walsh here, peg 15. We'll have the fish out now. It's been quite interesting watching this. Yesterday in here it was quite tough. Today, looking for the silvers that come out, there's a decent skimmer there, a few smaller ones, half-decent roach as well, but it's steady and it's ticking away. Now, one of the other things that might come into play a little bit later on is that we have had a couple of foul hook carp that have been lost. What that means is they are in the area, so if the carp do come into play, there could be a late charge here. That was 1 kilo, 100 grams. It's not massive, but you know what? It's something, and they're catching up. Rob Dorset, how's it looking over with you?
Well, Rob, I think we might have a massive one over here. Not just a massive haul, but a massive fish as well. Contender for biggest fish of the day. I'm going to get Steve to pull it out for peg 9, England's Will Raisin. Solid start. He just doesn't stop catching fish. He's fishing on the bottom, catching anything that swims down there. And in this net you'll see coming out now, there's a big, big carp. And then what amazed me was he's got some very light tackle. And yet he still brought this big carp in on that very light tackle in, what, less than 5 minutes? Quite extraordinary. So what we're going to do is we're going to weigh all these fish together first. And then we're going to pull the big carp out, that big common carp you can see there, who's just going in. Oh no, we're doing him first on his own, are we? OK, we're going to do the contender for big fish first. This is that common carp on his own. It looks like it's over 2 kilos. Where are we, Dick?
120.
2 kilos 120, that carp on its own. Let's chuck the rest of the fish in very delicately. Chuck is not the right word to use, is it? Let's delicately place the rest of his skimmers in there on top of that carp. Hang on, we think there's one more to come, Dick. Hang on a second. There's one little wriggler. Oh, he's a tiny little wriggler. Look at that. Come on, get your hands on him. That's it, gently in he goes. And let's see this latest haul for England's Will Raisin on peg 9. Crumbs, it's up near 4 kilos. What a haul this is.
3,900 exact.
3 kilos 900 for England's Will Raisin on peg 9.
No fish of that size over here, Rob. We're on peg 8 with Lee Edwards of Wales. Ian, if you just do the honours, please. Lee has had a good little run, though. He's fishing fairly short, sort of top 2, top 4 distance, fishing caster on the bottom. And he's just managing to pick off a few more quality silverfish. So just to try and build his weight a little bit. He had a fairly slow start. In the rest of the section, I can tell you that Gilles Cordan of France on peg 5's had a few very small fish as well. Jamie Masson of Scotland's just caught his first fish. He's fishing for big fish, kind of skimmers with a big worm. And Nick Howell of Ireland has also had a fairly low weight, sort of 200 grams. But what's
1 kilo 230.
So for Lee Edwards of Wales, 1 kilo 230. So that just increases his pace here on peg 8.
Well, here on peg 3, obviously the winning peg from yesterday is Dieter Friedrichs from Holland, and we're just going to have a watch as they weigh his net. And I was having a chat with them because we heard before about Des Ship getting smaller skimmers now following that good haul early on, but the bigger skimmers have been heading here to peg 3. No carpers yet, but they are pretty pleased with the size of the fish that are increasing at the moment. And he's just landed another one there as we speak, and just wait for Barry and Mike from the Angling Trust to weigh their net here as he just unhooks that. And then we'll bring it over and have a look at this this half-hour session's weight. Lying in third at the moment, Holland, of course, his teammates over on peg 11. And as we watch the net come over here, just skimmers we think in this one, but hopefully a decent weight for them to add to the 1 kilo 98 that their combined weight was from the first half-hour session. So let's have a look and see what Holland have got to add to their total from peg number 3. In they go, certainly a lot of skimmers. Let's have a look and see what that one weighs for Holland.
One kilo 140 grams.
There you go, 1 kilo 140 grams to add to Holland's total. They were in third of the first half hour. We'll find out where that leaves them now.
Another tipper there for Will Raisin on peg 9.
Ginger Nick with another one.
Nick Howell of Ireland, officially from County Tyrone in Northern Ireland. Doesn't quite have the accent off yet, though.
No, not quite. He's got a bigger bit of worm on there, Alan, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been there a few years as well. I'm surprised he's not picked up the Irish lingo, to be honest.
He probably has when he's there.
Yeah, you're probably right, yeah. But he's a good angler, there's no doubt,
yeah.
Jurgen Spearings of Holland, who returned. He got 25 kilos individually last year as part of the Dutch team that finished in 4th place. He's the man that was very upset that he got stuck in the tunnel and missed the Argentina semi-final in the World Cup. No such problems for the England. They could see the England teams, they just disappeared weeks ago.
But to be honest, the Holland-Argentina game, you were better off knowing the result than watching it. It was a terrible, terrible game. I like football, I didn't like that.
This is our second of the double Dutch team, Dieter Friedrichs. He's from Schinveld in Holland. Came 4th in the individual World Cup in Spain in 2010. Right, we've done our maths behind the scenes, and England have extended their lead from Ireland, who've made a very, very good start themselves. But England with 12.28 kilos so far. That's 6.4 kilos for Des Shipp and 5.86 kilos for Will Raisin. Ireland doing OK. Vinnie Walsh had 1.1 kilos in the last half an hour, which gives them a combined weight there for Ireland of 4.71. And Holland are doing OK. Jurgen Spearings, who we just saw on the pictures there, had a decent individual catch of 1.56 kilos, giving him a total of 2.66. And we're happy to say that Scotland have got off the mark. It's taken them an hour, but 1.02 kilos. It's not an individual competition, it's a team competition, of course. The combined weights during the course of the 5 hours between the two. If it were individual, then the two England guys would be leading at Shipp and Raisin.
I think there's a bit of a mistake on there. I think Will Raisin's first weight has gone to Des Shipp, because Will had 5 kilo in the first. Did Will have 5 kilo in the first weight?
No.
No, it was Des who had first, that's right. What do I know?
He said, we'll cut it out. Oh, we're live. We'll do it at the end. Don't worry about that. And I always trust you implicitly with numbers as well. But Jurgen Spearings on his return here is enjoying it, part of that Dutch team. And it's all part of the experience for the tourists, as I think they call them sometimes in international sport, the teams that are coming over for the first time. The Hungarians, Zsolt Brichter and Robert Ederle, have at least got off the mark. But Jamie Masson, who last year was one of the stars of the competition, wasn't he? Had a catch individual of 30.86 kilograms, has got nothing so far for Scotland. Now, Des is on peg 1. Just a couple of pegs alongside him from Holland is Dieter Friedrich from Holland. We saw Des having one of his quieter moments. That's probably the longest he's gone without catching a fish this afternoon. But Dieter Friedrichs of Holland are in 3rd place as a team. Individually, he'd be the 6th best angler to date. Might be about to improve upon those statistics, as we have around a minute to the 3rd weigh-in of the afternoon.
Good looking fish, this. It's having a bit of fun and games with it. It looks like he's using fairly powerful elastic, possibly not with a puller bung, Alan, so he's using only the elastic inside his pole without the ability to shorten it.
I'll be surprised if he's not using a puller bung. He's the conversation I have a lot with anglers in shops, you know, a lot of anglers think that you've got to use heavy elastics for carp, and you know, as you can see here, using a light elastic and a puller bung, you can get, you know, really big fish in. And it's, you know, it's always a source of amazement that, you know, a lot of the club style anglers want to fish with really, really heavy elastics.
I think, to be fair, they hear a lot of that and read a lot of that in magazines, don't they? They read about people trying to explain how good they are by saying, oh, I use 20 elastic and catch 200 pound every time I go. Fishing isn't like that, it shouldn't be like that.
No, I've seen so many big fish lost by, you know, just putting too much pressure on hook. I mean, at the end of the day, you've only got a very, very thin piece of steel on at the end to keep them on.
Quick reminder of the rules: if that had been 5 past 5 or 7 minutes past 5, that fish wasn't in the net, that wouldn't have counted, would it?
No.
Does this count for this weight? It doesn't, because the hoot has gone.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter, does it, during the course of the afternoon, yeah?
I'm really surprised he's not using his puller kit just to shorten that elastic down. I'm sure he's got a puller in, because these lads have been here before.
He is. Look, he's got a tiny bit out.
Yeah.
There's about 4 or 5 inches just by his right hand. You can see a little bit of elastic. What it does, Rob, the elastic they use is very, very stretchy. And when you use a softer elastic, you can't get control of the fish close in. So what you have to do is shorten the elastic, and you do it by pulling the elastic either at the end of the pole or the side of the pole and trapping it. What you're not allowed to do is pull the elastic outside the pole. In other words, you couldn't reach past the end of the pole and then pull the elastic. That's completely against the rules.
Well, he's used all of the talents available to him there, done brilliantly to land that. Welcome back to our Festival of Fishing here. Behind us, they're just making the third weigh-in of the afternoon. And we've done the sums there, and England, well, have extended the lead over Holland, 15.88 kilos. The last weigh-in, Will Raisin got 2.32 kilos individually. Dieter Friedrichs did reasonably well there for Holland with a 2 kilo catch in the last half an hour, which now takes them into second place. Jürgen Spearings with 0.38 kilos as well helps them in that particular weigh-in. Ireland down to third place. Hungary coming last. Well, they didn't come here with a great deal of hope in their heart. And Scotland had a slow start, but maybe they're going to do to England what England did to Scotland last year and clinch it right at the end. This is down to peg 1, Des Ship, who's had an excellent day, 7.7 kilos individually today on top of Will Raisin's 8.81 kilos. England, the reigning world champions, reigning European champions, reigning FishOMania champions, look as though they're again in prime position. Well, let's get back to the action down peg 10. This is Wojciech Kaminski, the man who's an economist by day, an angler every other second that he gets, and he's made the long journey over here. He's a former world junior individual and team champion back in 1997. Currently individually the 11th best angler of the 16 that we've got there in the international competition today. This is Dieter Friedrichs of Holland. They've had a good little period here, haven't they?
Yeah, he's doing well, Dieter. He's 4 kilos in the net now. Des Ship still catching there as well. It's a really good corner. The wind, as you can see the ripple. It's going more right to left there rather than into their face, and it just seems to be making that water move slightly. Yesterday the water was dead. It looked dead and it felt dead, but with a little bit of movement, just imagine your bait just tripping on the bottom and the fishing on it and that kind of way.
Pegs 1 and 2 on the other side of the waters from Scotland. David Corcoran of Edinburgh, a financial services manager, who won his section of the World Championship in Spain, 5-time Celtic Cup team winner. So he's used to the edginess of these kind of events. And of course from England, Will Raisin, who has had the best day so far of any of the anglers. A total individual weight of 8.18 kilos, part of England's 15.88 kilos. Oh, Jean and Gilles clearly enjoying the trip across the channel to compete in FishOMania. Knew they probably weren't going to win it. They're actually coming 7th out of 8 countries at the moment. But Gilles, true Frenchman, he says his favourite drink is champagne, the French version, of course. There's only one version, isn't there? And Jean Desk, the chef, as he's known. But at the moment, they have a very poor weigh-in, but clearly enjoying the sunshine here in Staffordshire, in the heart of the English countryside. Right, let's get down to the water's edge, to our reporters. A shake around the lake, starting off with Rob Hughes.
Well, we're down here at peg 15, Vincent Walsh, and it's Ireland again all eyes are on in this section. It's a bit of a whitefish, silverfish battle going on. We've got bream, we've got roach, we've got lots and lots of small fish going on. We're just a little bit of a pause there. It's 810 grams. Now, we were concerned about England originally. We're now concerned about Holland. They overtook. Rob Dorset, what can you tell us over there?
Well, I can tell you that Will Raisin on peg 9 from England is just increasing his lead. I mean, we know this is a team competition, don't we? We know this is England. It's England pairs. If you take Des Ship out of the equation, this guy is more than double the person in the third place in the individuals, and he's had another good haul. We'll ask Steve there, the bank runner, to pull the latest haul out. No big fish in this, but he's just continually pulling out decent skimmers, fishing on the bottom, and almost every cast he's pulling a fish in. So I reckon there's more than a dozen in here. Look at that keep net wriggling away. Not big fish, but just consistent. And it is quite an education watching him fish. As I say, I haven't been this close to Will Raisin before, and he's like a machine. He just keeps catching. Look, there's some roach in there, there's some nice skimmers, and it must be over 1 kilo again. It is, it's nearly 2 kilos. What do we got, Dick?
$1,640.
1 kilo 640 for England's Will Raisin, and that really just extends their lead.
Amazing, isn't it, Rob? OK, we're on peg 7, which is Nick Howell of Ireland's peg. If I could just ask Scott to do the honours there. You might notice that Scott is our stealth steward. Sneaking away from the action there. Scott is another member of the Army fishing team. Scott Rispin, his manager. Grant Wild is the steward at the other end of the section. Nick's had a slow sort of half hour, and this is kind of the way things are going in this section at the moment. Jamie Masson from Scotland in peg 6 has really been struggling. And although Gilles for France has been catching quite a few fish like this, it really hasn't been going very well. No carp at all. What we got, Bob?
690 grams.
And that's pretty standard. 690 grams for Nick Howell of Ireland on peg 7.
Well, here on peg 2, if Mick wants to get the net out for us, a new country to the tournament, it is Poland, and Adam Niemiec, who is fishing from peg 2 and been pretty consistent. We've seen quite a few skimmers going there though, but he also had one decent sized catch. We're going to have a look at this and see. They're just 400 grams behind Wales at the moment, combined total, so if they can have a decent haul here, they will move up into 4th place in the competition. So let's have a look and see what is in the net. So skimmers of all sizes and a rudd there as well, as we make sure the fish will get in the net for the scales. Let's pop those in carefully. And we've got guys from the Angling Trust here who are going to weigh this and have a look and see what Poland have managed in this half hour. What have we got there, Barry?
1 kilo dead.
1 kilo dead, so they were 400 grams behind Wales for 4th place. We'll see if that moves them up a position on the table.
We now have all of the weights from weigh-in number 4 and can confirm that you have extended your lead. It's a combined total of 19.7 kilos for England. Holland appear to be the nearest competitors, 8.8 kilos. Again, Dieter Friedrichs with a 1.2 kilo catch in the last half an hour. Jürgen Spearings with a half a kilo catch as well, keeping them in the frame. Ireland in 3rd place with 6.95 kilos. Vinnie Waltz with almost a kilo in the last half an hour. Nick Howell as well with a 0.69 catch as well. Let's go back down to some live action. I think there's a fish being caught down there on peg 7. This is Ireland's Nick Howell.
See, Nick is quite unusual in this field, as he's had some experience of commercial fisheries. He's lived in Ireland for some time, but not until commercials were well underway, and so he's got a bit of experience. You obviously lose a bit when you don't fish it at all, and he's fishing the natural Irish venues most of the time, but he's such a good angler, you know. He was such a good angler at a very, very young age, 14, 15 years old. He was a top angler. He fished with me in Banstead for a while, and then he went to fish for Dorking, who are the ultimate team, with the exception, of course, of Barnsley Blacks. But they're the top 2 teams in the country. Starlets are there as well, but if Dorking don't win it, usually Barnsley do, and vice versa.
Yeah, we're just getting the upper hand
at the moment.
A little bit at the moment. We're
1
just,
point on the Gloucester Canal without even practising.
Yeah, and of course, you know, the fish off. We won the fish off against them as well to qualify for Slovenia, which, you know, okay, we finished 4th in Slovenia in the World Club Championships with Drennan Barnsley, but again, you know, good results.
Well, it's looking like one of the bigger fish that's been caught in the international competition today as well by Nick Howell down there on peg 7. Just a couple of doors down. On peg 9, position number 9, is Will Raisin of England, of course. England leading at the moment. Every little fish counts, especially between Des and Will. That could make a big difference come the final count.
Absolutely, yeah. They'll be having their own little individual battle, both hoping each other wins it, or not quite.
The pair of them, they are ultra competitive, there's no doubt, and both of them will want to win it individually as well. Right. Both of them.
Well, I know Des was willing fish onto your hook last. Will was willing fish onto your hook last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, I would do it same for him as well.
Yeah.
They're, you notice they're fishing very, very small pieces of worms up most of anglers now, because they're targeting everything. They're catching skimmers, tench, you know, odd carp, tiny little bits of worm. I mean, what you're trying to do really is fish a piece of worm almost the same size as a caster.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, then much easier to catch, you know, all species of fish. If a carp comes along, it'll eat it.
We came to Des catching the fish, we've gone back to him, he's catching the fish.
Tench.
That's a good bit of weight, yeah.
Well, hard at work, the internationals there, the famous faces of angling.
Well, welcome back to FishOMania International. We're at the halfway stage now. The fifth weigh-in is about to happen. If Mick would like to get the keep net here from Des Ship, and I'm going to have a quick word with Des because I came round earlier to have a chat and he was very keen to know how everyone else was getting on, including Will. And when I told you, Des, that you were leading the individual totals, you didn't quite believe me, did you?
No, not with Will. He'll win it, he always does. He'll come good at the end.
What's changed? Because this morning when we came here, you said, oh, the wind direction's not great, it'll be around his side of the lake.
Yeah, the wind's sort of funneling down that end of the lake, and when we walked around this morning, I to be honest, I did sort of, you know, fancy that area to catch. It's not so much, you know, I've had a good start, but it's gradually sort of fading away. But I've just had a tench, about £2, and a few more skimmers. So, and obviously the managers are telling us that the other teams aren't sort of catching up. So at the moment, I've just started feeding me edge line. I'm also still feeding me 13-metre line, just in case we have to change. But up to now, I've just got to be a little bit more patient. You know, earlier I was getting more bites, and I've got to back off the bait and just wait. And it's funny because I've just got the odd little bubble. I'm fishing just before the silt starts, and just as the silt starts, I get the odd little bubble. So I know there's fish there, but they're just really hard to catch. Just put a little roach then.
A little roach on the line now. That was 1 kilo 640, that last net for you. And I know when I told you that the juniors have got the tag for the biggest fish so far today, you were a bit worried about that as well, weren't you?
Yeah, it's always the same. My son's the same. He always gives me a battering on the biggest fish.
Brilliant, Des. We'll leave you to it. Thank you very much. So 1 kilo 640, but Des still going well here round at Peg 1. But I think Andy Ford thinks he might have a contender to take that title off the youngsters today.
Well, Rachel, there might be more than one contender because we're on Peg 7 with Nick Howell of Ireland. You can see behind me that Nick's actually playing a fish at the moment, and he's already got another fish which we reckon might be 3 kilos in his keep net. We're waiting until Nick lands this fish before we even attempt to take his keep net out in front of him. So let me just see if I can get over here and have a little word with Mark Thiedem, the Ireland manager, who is sitting behind Nick, anxiously waiting to see what this fish is. Do I sense a little change of tactics has happened here, Mark?
Yeah, we've changed in the last couple of sort of half-hour sessions to, you know, step things up a bit, and it seems to be paying off at the moment. Just got to get Vincey to do the same at the other peg, but you know, Nick's had 2 good fish here now. Well, hopefully when he gets this one in.
The biggest fish at the moment has actually been caught by one of the juniors. It just shows how poor the sort of the carp fishing has been today. Oh, he's lost it.
He lost it. Wow.
Right at the net. Apologies for the language there if you did hear Nick, but you can't blame him for losing a big fish like that. I'll just let Scott get the other landing net. I'll let you get on your feet.
Yeah, okay.
Scott's going to grab Nick's landing net out there, his keep net out rather. He has actually already got a carp which is pushing 3 kilo. That looked like a really nice common carp that he's just lost right at the net. That's the trouble with these soft elastics. That carp, just one little... light elastics rather, it's just one little surge of power right at the net at the point of being landed, and just the hook pulled out, I think. Right, over to the weigh-in. Now, that needs to beat 3.14 from, I think it's Jordan Holloway who had that one, and Bob's going to pop it on the scale. What a shame he lost that fish, eh? It's not going to beat 3 kilo.
2 kilos 600.
Nice fish, 2 kilos 600, but not good enough to take the big fish prize, and what a shame he lost that other one.
It's the blue of France, Jean Desque, who won the team gold with Census. Also a gold at the World Team Championships in 1996 in Maribor in Yugoslavia. But just outside of Stoke-on-Trent and Newcastle-under-Lyme, he's finding life a little more difficult.
Slightly different technique of fighting there. Rather than getting down to the top kits like we tend to do and allowing the elastic to do the work, Jean's got 8 metres of pole in the air, I would think.
Yeah, I'm assuming that John's not got a puller kit in. I mean, you know, not all of the continental handlers use the puller kits because we fish this type of venue all the time. We know how important it is to have this. But of course, John, you know, looking at that, I would say he's not got a puller in his pole.
What he did there, but he just dipped the pole down. He was trying to get a little bit of elastic back in the pole, get it up to 90 degrees or more than 90 degrees to increase the tension on the elastic.
Yeah. I've seen John before step off his box and actually walk up the bank when he's playing big fish like this, and it really is a strange way of playing him, but it'll be interesting to watch him and see if he does it today.
It'll be very interesting if it's foul hook, because of course trying to land a foul hook fish like that, especially if it's towards the rear end, would be almost impossible, I would think, because you'd get most of the fish out of the water.
Yeah, it must be cold down here because he's got his gloves on.
I think they're gloves almost of his own design, aren't they? Use them for shipping the pole back, and in this very, very hot weather he goes.
Here we go.
He's going on walkabout.
I won't be surprised if he don't walk up bank with it.
Oh, walk backwards, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. You watch. Now I've called this quite well.
Yeah, you've done a brilliant job,
Never
mate.
seen that before.
Well, I've seen him do it before. He could net this, stood right up bank and netted at his platform.
Well, 21 years, we've seen some innovations and we've seen some differences, but this is translating from the French world. He's just clearing the bank behind him as well. He's got plenty of room behind him on 13. Get the photographer out of the way. Rob Hughes is very, very close, probably out of earshot after some of the language we may have heard by the water's edge today. Rob Hughes, what do you think?
Well, I don't think it's foul hooked. The key a lot of the time is when you look at the float, you can see the float wagging like the tail wagging the dog, and it's not actually at the moment. We still haven't seen the fish. What I have seen right down from trackside is a big boil about 4 or 5 feet away from the float. So it's moving a fair amount of water. But I must agree with the lads in the studio up there. I've never seen anybody land a fish like this before, and he's going to have to get his go-go gadget arms out to net this one, because the landing net looks like he's got an 8-foot handle on it, and he's about a 10-foot back from the bank. I missed that. I was just looking at him, but did anybody see if that was foul hooked there? Let's have a look. We just saw a big splash just on the surface. The float is quite a light colour, silver water, so it's hard to see exactly where it is, but yeah, it's proving to be very, very exciting. It's on a charge now, down to hang. Oh, it's come off. It's come off. Would you believe it? He certainly was not happy with that slap the water, and that is going to be a sad loss for him.
Well, great. How different, champ, is it watching it from up here than down there in the ring, so to speak?
It's certainly a lot easier up here. You know, watching the pressure and the tension while you're fishing. It's quite immense. You know, it's quite a tense sport is fishing. You know, I don't think people realise. You know, non-anglers realise what goes through an angler's mind when they're fishing. You know, and it's very tense at times.
That's going to cheer Jamie Masson up. He's got a carp there. He's got 650 grams before that, and that's a couple of kilos at least, probably 2.5 kilos, I would think, that fish. So that'll make him feel a lot better.
There's Ship on peg number 1. Just reeling those fish in, fish after fish. And they, you know, the thing about the England team as well, they're registering every half an hour, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I've just heard another little, almost immediately after that fish, Jamie lost another one, so he's got carp on his feed.
How have they done in the last weigh? Let's find out from Rob Hughes.
Well, we're just about to run the way through now, and one of the most important things that these guys need to do is put some decent weight on the bank, and that means one thing, that means carp. Now, yesterday there were no carp caught at all. We've seen a little bit earlier on peg 13, one carp being lost. What I can say is in the last 20 minutes down here trackside, we've started to see a lot of carp movement, and we've seen our first one actually get caught. It's not a monster, it's a common of about a kilo-ish. So let's find out what this is in total. It's Vincent Walsh, it's Ireland, it's peg 15, and it's 1 kilo 900. So we have carp in the game. Let's find out, Andy, what's going on over there.
Yeah, we've got some carp in the game over here, or one to be precise. Grant, if you do the honours, please, we're ready for you. As you heard when we were last over on Jamie Masson's peg, we're on peg 6 with Jamie of Scotland, of course. He'd actually landed one good carp, which is what he's got in his keep net, and has lost 2 others. He's having big problems at the moment with his presentation. Basically what's happening, because there's a massive wind coming across from the north, it's got a little bit of an edge of a chill to it as well too. He's having problems with his pole presentation. It's blowing it across to his left, so he can't hold the pole tip still very well and present his bait properly. Now what you'll notice in Jamie's net is the frustration of fishing for carp on worm. That's a lovely fish, which may well go 3 kilo, and I think we're going to weigh that one first if we could please, Bob. 3.14 to beat.
Oh.
No? Looks
2 kilos 550.
To 550, way short. What you'll also notice is when we finish Jamie's weigh, so Bob's just going to pop that one in his retaining net there on the platform. He's also got a few very, very small perch in his keep net. Now, what seems to be happening is that he's holding out for a bite from a big carp. And unfortunately, these tiny perch, you can see some of them are barely big enough to get the worm. Look at this one here, look. This tiny little perch here, hardly big enough to get the worm in its mouth. There's an even smaller one. So frustrating. Every time the float goes under, Jamie's hoping it's a carp, and that's what he's getting on the end. What have we got with that?
440 grams.
So that adds another 440 grams to Jamie Masson of Scotland's total on peg 6.
Yeah, we're just seeing what's happening with England's Will Raisin on peg 9, because it's just consistent. He just keeps putting fish in that net. We're going to ask Steve to pull out that net now and see what the latest catch is. But let me just read through the scores on the doors for Will Raisin of England. In his first half an hour, 1 kilo 960. In his second haul, 3 kilos 900. Then 2 kilos 320. 1 kilo 640. 1 kilo 130. It's just consistently at least a kilo, kilo and a half. He's got a good tench that we saw him get in this haul, which is going to boost that up again. Proves he's fishing on the bottom, look, if he's got a nice tench like that. And is this going to extend the lead even further? It looks like it is. It's 2.5 kilos-ish. What have we got there, Dick?
Two kilos 650.
2 kilos 650 for Will Raisin. I'm going to bring you around so you can see him. You can see Mark Curry there from the England manager. They're having a chat about, because there are carp being caught elsewhere in the lake, should they be changing their tactics? It's a debate. They're still baiting up the area, around and about, very narrow in the margins for later on, and at a length as well further out in the middle of the lake. It's going to be fascinating. England at the moment think they don't need to change their tactics. If the rest of the nation start catching big carp, they may have to change earlier than they're planning. But at the moment, while they're still catching decent silverfish and the odd tench in there as well, they're happy to stick with the plan.
Well, here on peg 4, they are catching carp. Robert Adey from Hungary, to be precise. If Ricky wants to get the net out, he's just had 2 now in the last few minutes before that hooter sounded, and it's been a tough day for Hungary so far. They came 6th last year in the competition here, and we're hoping for better. Robert was one of their anglers last year. Now this is a fairly decent net here that Ricky's about to empty out, and we can have a look as Mick and Barry weigh this. Look at those decent carp he's got in there. We'll weigh those. This is going to be definitely Hungary's best net of the day by a long way. Let's have a look and have a listen and see how much this one is for the team.
4 kilos 420.
4 kilos 420, and we may weigh one of those individually in a moment and see if we've got a big catch over here. It looks pretty big for us.
all coming together for some of the other nations, but England are keeping it together. You can see that kind of look of concern as well from the management, deep concentration, wanting to get it right. This is the Poland team. Adam Niemiec, who's made the journey over. He writes a good story. He's a journalist over in Poland for Angling World. And he has caught a very decent-sized fish.
They're definitely feeding out on the carp, and they've started just having a munch.
Yeah, I think as match goes on, there's going to be more and more feeding. Now, Adam and his other lad who was fishing with him went to Gold Valley, actually, for a practice.
Okay.
I think, you know, probably William will have helped him a little bit, you know, fishing shallow and fishing up bottom and catching carp down at Gold Valley to put a few fish in the net, because obviously they weren't allowed to fish here.
No. That's Robert Erdline. When we saw him just now, it looked to me as if he was fishing in a margin.
Yeah.
There wasn't a margin fish caught yesterday. Not one single margin fish.
Well, he were when Cameron were just on him. If he's caught that fish down edge, I'm sure, you know, both William and Des will be aware of that.
That's Mr. Desco's float, or Monsieur Desco's float, I think. Yes, it is.
Jean Descay, yeah, France on peg 13. It's that time of the day where the carp are coming out to play, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's like a hybrid there. Possibly a roach bream hybrid. It flattered to deceive.
I'm sure that William will be starting to think more about carp now and maybe upping his feed a little bit, you know, feeding a little bit more aggressive, and also starting to feed that long line, because I think it's William who'll probably be more in with a chance of catching carp rather than Des who was out at wind, you know, the lake on peg 1.
Decent skimmer there for Ginger Nick. And if he's caught that on the same line as he had the carp, the chances are the carp have moved off for a little bit. So he might have to go a bit longer or a bit shorter to where the carp have moved to.
It'd be nice to see Ireland do well, because I think, you know, they've struggled a couple of times when they've come here. So, you know, to see them up with the leaders is fantastic.
But they've learnt every time they come, haven't they?
Yeah.
Every time they come. Another Polish. Oh dear.
That could be down edge as well, Keith.
Yeah.
It looked to be quite shallow, didn't it?
Yeah. That's his second decent fish as well.
Good fish. Good fish. I don't think it's 3 kilo, but it's going that way.
Next to Des, peg 2. That's 2 he's had as well. Is that Vinnie Walsh?
That's Vincent Walsh, peg 15 of Ireland. Ireland currently in second place, almost 15 kilos behind England, as we're into the last 3 weigh-ins now, aren't we? We've had 6 of 10.
You said about Dennis White with the Barnsley Juniors. He's been doing it for many, many years, and it pays such dividends, doesn't it? You get youngsters on the bank, even if they don't develop into top match anglers. It does so much for people who've got character disorders and they can't concentrate, they get diagnosed with illnesses that may or may not exist. Give them a fishing rod and their character just changes.
There's some good clubs around our area.
Workshop are another one, yeah.
Very, very good, you know, junior outfit.
Farnborough down our end, Warrington are brilliant as well, yeah. It's very, very good. And I know that Get Some Fishing have got, I'm a trustee of the charities, and they've got new projects being set up all over the country and take a lot of people through, and all the coaches are properly licensed and qualified, so, you know, there's no problems with them at all. It's a brilliant charity, I think.
Well, welcome back to the lake here at FishOMania International. And Ricky's just going to get this net out for me for Hungary. Robert Adair, you saw just before the break there, landing that big carp, and it's his third in a row. He's had a really good last hour or so. Such a tough morning for Hungary up to this point, and they've been languishing in last place. But a great net last time. He personally is on 4.5 kilograms in his individual total, but Ricky's going to get that net for us now from the water, and we're going to have a look and see how big that carp was. It took him, I was trying to time it, it was about 10-11 minutes he was playing with that carp to try and bring it in. So we'll have a look and see if it's going to be a challenger for the biggest fish today, which is 3.14 by young Jordan Holloway at the moment. He's got the lead in that. The £1,000 could be heading his way, but will it be heading to Hungary? Let's have a look and see if this is the only fish in the net, so we can weigh it. Oh no, there is a couple of small ones in there. We'll weigh the whole thing first, and then we'll take the small ones out and have a look and see if we're anywhere close before we weigh it individually. Let's have a look and see what this net is going to weigh. Oh, it looks like he's not going to win that £1,000.
It's under 3.
That's why it was so difficult to land.
2 kilos 980.
2 kilos 980 for Hungary, but getting back into the running after a tough first few hours here at FishOMania. We can go now over to Rob Hughes, I believe.
Absolutely, thank you, Jackie. Well, it's a story of carp over here as well. Not quite as big as the ones you've got over there, but the main thing is that we do have carp. There's a couple in the net. What I can also tell you is that we have lost probably 3, maybe 4. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 of them were foul hooked. One we think might have been cleanly hooked. But this is where it's happening in this section.
80 grams.
2 kilos and 80 grams there for Vincent Walsh, and here's the man that's making things happen. What he's done is he's put a fair amount of bait in, and you know what, when this water goes flat calm, you can see them over there. There's an awful lot of carp in the area. They're not playing ball feeding that much. He's had 1 or 2 foul hookers, but you never know where it's going to go from now on. He wants to catch up with England. We're going to need a few more bigger ones to do that.
Yeah, here at peg 9 with England's Will Raisin, we're still doing very, very nicely, still very consistent. We've just weighed in peg 11, the Dutch team, Jurgen Spearing. He's put in 2 3/4 kilos, 1 big carp in there as well. Very different tactic from Will here, who's really trying very steady, lots of silverfish. Steve, if you can manage to get to his net and pull that out, we'll do the latest weigh-in. Remember, on the individual standings, Will Raisin is ahead of the game, but remember that doesn't count for anything today. It's a team game. And it's him and Des Cook together that are fighting for England, and they are well out ahead. But there's some concern. Mark Addy, the team manager, you can see just over there, who is with Will Raisin all the time, been alongside him all the time. And he's just talking tactics. They know that the carp are starting to feed elsewhere in the lake. And are they going to have to change tactics? He's still got a lot of silverfish in there. And it's still a decent haul, isn't it? That consistent catching.
1,720.
1 kilo 720 for Will Raisin. He just keeps on catching. Every single half-hour weigh-in, he's put a fish in the bag, and it's always been a minimum of a kilo, kilo and a half at the very, very least. He's doing fantastically well, and he's extending that lead for England. But if the carp start feeding elsewhere, could yet be very tight.
So peg 7 with Nick Howell of Ireland. Scott, if you do the honours, and we're ready for you now. That's great. Rob talks about the consistency that Will's been catching at. Well, Nick's not been doing too badly either, Nick Howell of Ireland. And I can tell you that the Irish team are starting to get very, very excited, because if things keep going the way they are at the moment, worst case scenario for them is that they may well finish second. And that would be a huge honour for the Irish match fishing team on venues like this commercial venue here in England, the sort of venues that they just simply do not fish. Just pass over to Bob. That's a 2 kilo weight there. Bobby, what's he got there?
1 kilo 800.
720.
Hang on, the wind's blowing the net. 1 kilo 840.
So Nick Howell of Ireland on peg 7, 1 kilo 840.
Thanks very much, Andy. Let's go over to the Wales peg. Lee Edwards of Wales on peg 8. Wales, of course, are currently 7th out of 8 teams in FishOMania. At least everybody's caught something this afternoon. Yesterday, poor old Steve Cook in the individual competition had a complete blank in 5 hours of continuous fishing. Scotland, David Corcoran peg 14. Scotland were very close in 2013. 6th position so far, with a total weight between their two anglers of 8.15 kilos. Back to the Poland international, Adam Nimiek. Man who says he gets moved by hearing the Polish national anthem. That's the one thing we're missing at FishOMania. The national anthems before the tournament begins. But I'm sure he's humming it in his mind, and he may be hoping he can transfer some English money into Polish money if he could get the biggest fish. Significant.
Is that a proper run of fish? I'd imagine a proper run of fish. That I think is probably his 4th.
I think Poland's doing really well. I mean, when you think that these lads have not been here before, you know, they've not seen how the FishOMania works. So, you know, to be lying 4th, and that fish might have lifted them, you know, even further up, maybe even into 2nd. It's, you know, a fair achievement by them.
Poland's a great fishing nation, Alan, isn't it? I mean, we've seen with a lot of the Polish people that have come to England, even years and years ago, to the Nottingham area. They got into the fishing really quickly. They're now into fishing. The Polish ladies team's very good. Yeah. You know, they've got a real. It is almost the national sport in Poland, I think.
Yeah, and they do catch carp over there as well. So again, he looks like he could be downside.
Down the margin, yeah.
I'm sure that, you know, William and Des will be clocking this and keeping feeding that inside line, because if, you know, they start catching them downside, you can soon put some weight in, as me and William proved last year.
Do you know who his favourite angler is? He's got 2, Will Raisin, but most of all, Alan Scott on.
Fantastic.
He's got up even further in your estimation, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Thing is, Rob, you know, when the England team go around the world, we follow them on tight lines. We're at the World Feeder Championship this weekend. We're going with the team to the World Championships. When you go there, the crowds are behind the English anglers. They're known all over. I mean, the World Championship really is the European Championship plus American South Africa, but they're known all over the world. And it used to be Bob Nudd. They sat behind with a white cap, and we thought it was because his white cap was recognisable.
To 7 weigh-ins, 7 of 10. 5 hours of continuous angling. Of course, we have a weigh-in every half an hour, and the total catch of the 2 anglers combined during those 5 hours takes home the trophy and the title as FishOMania champions 2014. England have been dominant. They have been unbeatable in this particular competition, and they have a lead with 8, 9 and 10 weigh-ins, 3 weigh-ins left of what, 13 kilograms, or just less than 13 kilograms. Holland, though, are doing okay. Poor old France, Wales and Scotland, not so good. If it were an individual event, which is not today, of course, this is how it would be panning out. The 2 England guys would be leading, and they're having their own personal competition. Will Raisin 15.3 kilos today, just ahead of Des Ship. But Adam Nimiek, our Polish dancer, 38-year-old, who comes from Kobielka, back home in Poland, part of the World Team Championship side in 2012, is enjoying his first experience of the English countryside. Not so Zoltbrita from Hungary, or Gilles Cordin from France, or Wojciech Kuminski. But it's a truly international event, and who knows, there could be drama unfolding as it did in 2013. Stay with us, stay hooked. Back to the international angling there, our French friends, led by Jean Dosquet, down there on peg 13, are trying to enter the event. They're currently in last place. This is the Wales representative, Darren Frost, on peg 16. Wales currently just ahead of France in the standings, some 21 kilos behind the leaders, England. As we're into the...
We've been looking after the juniors here, and they've just finished. They finish at 4 o'clock, 4 weigh-ins, and it has turned out to be really, really close. In the end, Liam Miller is still in the running. He's nervously waiting to find out what we get here. Jordan Holloway was very close, but we've now decided that it is between Cameron and Liam. There is 1 kilo 10, I'm just being told, but which is what Cameron needs to get. So let's do the weigh-in now for Cameron. Cameron, are you nervous?
Not enough. There's not enough in here now.
He reckons there's not enough, and so he reckons that it will be Liam. 1 kilo 10 is what he needs. $1 kilo 10, just to reiterate, is what Cameron needs here to beat Liam Miller.
$1 kilo and 30 grams.
Yeah. Well, Liam, hard luck. Cameron, very well done to you.
Come here. Well done, pal.
Oh, look at that. Sportsmanship, huh? That's brilliant. Well, listen, well done to both guys, but Cameron, huge well done to you. How does it feel?
Unreal. That was really close, wasn't it? Cheers, mate.
How does this rate on the achievements so far in fishing for you?
Well, it's definitely up there. It's the best thing we can get, really, at our age. So.
You were third in the Nationals, weren't you? But counted being here today as one of your main achievements second.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. So.
You've got your mum, your dad. Where are they? Mum and dad, put your hands up.
My granddad's over there.
Let's quickly go and see Mum. Come on, Mum. Are you proud?
Very proud, yeah. I didn't think it, wasn't it? I'm very
proud.
A bit emotional. I am, yeah. Well done.
Well done to you both. That's absolutely lovely. What are you going to do with the money?
Put it towards a car. So I passed my test on Friday.
Yeah, I passed his test on Friday, so it was a good weekend.
Perfect scenario. Well, listen, huge well done to you, and thanks very much indeed for taking part.
Thank you. Cheers.
Well done, Mum.
Thank you.
Congratulations, young man. Oh, and the picture told the story as well, didn't it? I mean, great camaraderie between the two of them, congratulating each other, but also commiserations there for the second place man. How close was that?
3/4 of an ounce. There's Liam there. 3/4 of an ounce. You're young enough to come again, of course.
Have we ever had a closer margin in this particular competition, senior or junior?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we're just getting around the bank as well. So here we go. We can confirm it. Look how close that is. Cameron Cross, 6.39 kilos. Liam Miller, hair's breadth behind him, 6.37. I think I'm right in saying that Jordan Holloway, who's coming third in that competition, still has the biggest fish of the day at 3.14 kilos. So that could be two of the juniors taking away £1,000 today. And who says fishing doesn't pay? And well done to Dalton and to Zach as well, who've been part of a very, very competitive competition. I'm sure we'll be seeing them again in years to come in FishOMania, the senior event. And we do feel for young Liam as well. Cameron thought that he'd not got enough. Liam probably secretly thought he'd done enough. And then, well, it all became a little bit too much for him. Bless him.
I fished their hearts out. I mean, I went down and spoke to them all this morning. They were all really up for it, really keen. And I fished a brilliant match, to be fair. None of them have disgraced themselves. No. Look, they've all looked very professional. They fished really well.
The dividing line is very, very fine.
3/4 of an ounce. Nothing, is it?
No.
If one of those fish had a mouthful of pellets more.
Yeah. When we were talking earlier about them little tiny perch, it's, you know, one of them.
One of those, exactly one of those.
Makes a difference.
A fish 4 inches long, that is 3/4 of an ounce.
Always tell me about these fish that get away, aren't you? Well, £1,000 richer, and a story of fishing tale to tell for years to come as well. Well, that's the junior competition complete, and we have about 45 minutes left in the international competition. England are currently leading with a total catch between their two anglers, Des Ship and Will Raisin, of 31.63 kilos. Ireland coming on strong with 19.4 kilos, and in the last count, Vincent Walsh had 2.16 kilos as well, so they need to improve upon that. Holland having a very pleasant experience in the Staffordshire countryside. Their pairing of Dieter Friedrichs and Jürgen Spearings coming a creditable third, and France and Scotland at the moment are vying for the wooden spoon. Now, you may remember before we went for the commercial break that we've been watching Zolt Brichter for about 10 or 12 minutes trying to catch a particular fish. We now work it out to about 23 minutes that Zolt has been playing with this fish. Man against fish. Fish is winning on points.
Well, it's now time for him to start thinking about dominating the fish, Alan, isn't it?
Yeah, he's using a very light blue elastic.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to start looking at, you know, getting some of that elastic on the bank, really, puller kitting it.
See those bubbles there? The fish has just dived into the bottom, disturbed the sediment. And he's got to start getting that pole down and pulling on the elastic rather than on the pole. In my opinion,
it don't look as if it's foul up, Keith, does it?
No, he can't do anything if it's foul up. I'm not 100% sure it is yet.
No,
though.
I'm not either.
You see that angle there that he's got from above to below? He could, if he brought the pole towards him, he'd reduce that angle and create a different angle. But if he keeps the fish out there, that's where it will stay. He's got to start pulling it in, not up.
It's just experience.
It is, yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. But it's more in a way of advice to other anglers, Alan, that may be doing this sort of thing. There are ways you can help yourself, aren't there?
Yeah, of course. I'm just looking at his pole. I can't see a puller kit on it from a side puller. It's probably got a base puller in.
Well, he did admit before today's event that he is completely new to commercial fisheries. He probably never want to go back to one again.
Again, when he watches this back, he'll think to himself, well, why didn't I ship back quicker? Why didn't I, take hold of elastic? Because he'll watch the other lads and they'll learn. It's all about learning.
Especially if he's got subtitles.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I think, when you look at the leaderboard now, I mean, Ireland on, 20 kilos, all right, they're quite a long way behind England, but I think it's fantastic that Ireland,
Meanwhile, in contrast, just looking at the speed of the two English guys, Will Raisin and Des Ship, they are like machines in comparison, the way they're landing these fish.
You're right, Des was fishing for carp.
Yeah, he's up that one down side, I think. Not a big fish because he's picked it up.
Over on peg 11, Holland's Jürgen Spearings.
Failed to catch in the last half hour. He's making up for that. You see there now, what Jürgen's doing, he's dominating the fish. Fish wants to go one way, he pulls it the other way. He's making it work. He's trying to almost disorient it till he gets it in the net, and there it is.
So they're catching all around the lake. This is Wojciech Kaminski from Poland on peg 10.
It's not like this to stand up, so this is a reasonable fish. I bet the young lad who's leading the biggest fish, if he's watching him, is panicking a bit.
Yeah.
I'd say it's hooked in mouth as well.
So would I.
Sometimes you get odd ones that you hook facially round the nose.
Sort of on their outside lip almost, and that makes a massive difference. You can't, and hooked in the very top of the lip as well, they're very difficult to get up. Ideally, you want to hook a fish in the scissors, in the side of the mouth.
Like scrapping like hell.
But he'll have probably a 14 or a 12 up, I'm sure. Maybe a bunch, 2 worms, maybe a bunch of maggots. That's a good fish. Yeah, not as big as I thought. No, it's just one of them that makes you look a bit silly.
We've all had them. We've all had them. I've had Bream do that to me, Alan, never mind carp.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to Cudmore Fisheries in Staffordshire. FishOMania 21, we're in the last half an hour now of the men's international match here, and it's going right to the wire. Here on peg 10, Wojtek Kaminski has had a very, very quiet day, the Polish angler. He's a former world junior champion, but he was finding life pretty tough. Hasn't fished on a lot of these commercial lakes like this. But I tell you what, the last half an hour has been spectacular for him. Let's pull the bag out, because we've got two big carp in here. One of them is a contender for biggest fish of the day. That currently stands at 3.140 kilos. One of the juniors managed that. I'm going to hop over here. I don't know if my cameraman's going to manage to do it. If he can come around that way, Scott, without killing himself. Well done, Scott. And let's get these two Kaminski beauties in there. Is this the biggest fish first then, Dick, is it? So this is the contender for biggest fish. Remember, we're looking for 3 kilos 1/4 to beat the juniors. It's done it, I think. We've got a bit of a wriggle on. Baby. Bit of a wriggle on. He's been waiting for us.
3,440.
3 kilos 440. That is officially the biggest fish of the day so far for Wojtek Kaminski. Now let's stick his other carp in there. A big mirror carp going on the top. Now, to put this where we were, yeah, they're in 5th place, Poland, at the minute before this weigh-in. Kaminski was actually 15th best out of the 16 anglers on the lake. He'd managed less than 3 kilos in total before this weigh-in. But it's gone round the scales once. It's more than 5 kilos. How much is it, Dick?
5,740.
5 kilos 740 in total. What a half hour that has been for Kaminski, the Polish angler on peg 10. Not only is he now leading the race for biggest fish and that £1,000 first prize there, but he's also bumped Poland right up into contention. Certainly for second spot. England still out in front, but has that been enough to put Poland second? We'll do the maths for you.
Meanwhile, back on peg 12 is Zsolt Brichter. You may remember a couple of commercial breaks ago, we left him trying to catch one particular fish. Well, this is the same fish, the same angler, and we're told it's now 52 minutes that he's been trying to catch this single fish.
But he's got a bit of control now. He's pulling elastic out of his puller kit. He's got it much closer.
And we've just shown you the new biggest fish of the day, haven't we? 3 kilos 440 from Wojtek Kaminski. Well, we think we've got one that's beaten it, because while we were weighing that, a certain Will Raisin, England, peg 9, was landing an absolute monster. It was his first go in the margin, and a fish he'd been baiting the area in the margin all day long. It was his first go in the margin, and he's brought it out. Let's get Steve to bring the keep net out, and we'll have a look at this one. Remember, 3 kilos 440 to beat, and if he does beat it, it'll be the shortest held record. Now we've got an absolute net full of, because as typical with Will Raisin, he's not just caught one fish, he's caught dozens. So let's get these weighed in now. Will Raisin ahead, remember, if there were to be an individual competition. But there is the big old beast. He's got another carp in there as well, another mirror carp. He's just quietly going about his business, isn't he? And while we were making a fuss of Kaminski, next door to him on peg 10, he's landed this one. So let's have a look at this. 3 kilos 440 to beat. It's beaten it, I'm sure of it. Dick, where are we?
It's gone 4 kilos and more. 4 kilos 200 exactly.
4 kilos 200. We have a new leader in the biggest fish competition. It's England's Will Raisin on peg 9. Stay with me, because we'll just stick the rest of the catch in there and see exactly where we are, because this will extend England's lead surely at the top. Oh, it's spun right around. What a haul that is for Will Raisin in 1.5 hour period. What's the total bag, Dick? Oh, just waiting for the fish to settle. That moment of tension.
6 kilos 540.
6 kilos 540 in total. But Will Raisin, England, peg 9, currently has the biggest fish of the day. But the interesting thing is that the carp are starting to feed. He's feeding in the margin. Other guys are doing the same. Is now the time when we start seeing the big carp coming out of this lake.
Well, that was the moment, and that was probably the moment as well that any hope of the other 7 nations just disappeared to the bottom of that lake behind us. Will Raisin, for the 2nd year in a row, just simply magnificent. Last year he fought the fish and won 49.9 kilograms. This year, well, in the last weigh-in, he'd taken his total to 15.950. Well, it's a fight for second, isn't it? There's only 5 kilos between Wales in 5th place and Poland in 2nd place. Ireland are on 21.36 kilos, and they have just landed. This is Nick Howell on peg 7.
And Zolt's still busy. I can see Zolt from out my window. He's still busy.
Oh, an hour and 10 minutes. 1 hour and 10 minutes playing with one fish. And the terrible news is that poor old Zolt has lost it. The fish decided to bolt on Zolt. He won't want to see it, and I'm sure he will not want the Sky Plus to whiz past or whiz to this point, because this was the moment after an hour and 10 minutes that the news was broken to him. He was not catching that fish. Snap. Bit of an anticlimax, wasn't it?
I think the hook must have pulled out, you know, because it wasn't under extreme pressure, was it, when it came off?
I think the problem is when you play a fish for that long, the hook does wear a bit of a hold, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I feel for him.
He looks disconsolate.
Yeah.
Well, I think that discounts Hungary from the equation. So still the battle is on for 2nd place between Poland, Ireland and Holland. England way ahead with a total catch of just under 41 kilos. An unbelievable afternoon yet again from Will Raisin, who got 22.49 kilos individually, and his pal Des Ship 18.42 kilos. They've individual. If you look at Will Raisin's catch, he would actually be coming 2nd place in the team event. There is Des, 18.42 kilos. His combination currently coming 1st in the international. We have 40 seconds remaining before all is revealed, and the agony or ecstasy becomes news to the likes of Poland, Ireland and Holland, and it will just be confirmation to Will Raisin, and it'll just be the history books that are rewritten.
It was about this time last year we said he can't get another one, can he? And he could. He won't get another one now.
9, 8, 7. In the background you can maybe hear the countdown of John McDonald.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hardly a show of emotion. Yet again, a job well done. Messrs Raisin and Ship doing England proud. English sport in other fields may not be at its healthiest, but English angling has never ever been better. World champions, European champions. The ladies are doing brilliantly as well. Let's go down and get the news of the Dutch in the last half an hour from Rachel Brooks.
Yes, indeed. And if Ricky wants to get the net, and we can have a look at this and see how much Holland have in this final net. This is Dieter Fredericks on peg 3, the winning peg yesterday, of course, for FishOMania. Now, for FishOMania International. Let's see where Holland are going to end up. Dieter's first time here, although he's got 20 years of international fishing experience behind him. Let's have a look at what's in there. There's a big carp in there, that's for sure. Let's have a look and see what is in this final net for them this afternoon. His compatriot, of course, over on peg 11, but on peg 3, we're going to have this final weigh. Big carp, a couple of tiny skimmers and one medium skimmer. Let's have a look and see what that turns out on the scales. Barry, what have they got?
2 kilos, 660 grams.
2 kilos, 660 for Holland's final net from peg 3.
Yeah, now listen, we're racing across here because this is Jurgen Spearing on peg 11 for Holland, and he's got 2 decent carp in there. So this is really going to boost Holland's total nicely. We've got to do some amazing mental arithmetic here to try and work this out. It's going to be very, very close between Holland, Poland and Ireland. We're dealing with Holland first. Jurgen Spearing, peg 11, adds to his total with
4 kilos, 700.
4 kilos, 700. 2 big carp from Jurgen Spearing to add to that Dutch total. Incredible.
Sorry, we're on peg 7 with Nick Howell actually for Ireland. I'm just going to ask Scott, this is going to be very interesting. Nick has had a rather frustrating last 10 minutes or so. He actually lost a carp, possibly foul hooked right at the death. He's got one here that must be about 2 kilos. This is Nick Howell from Ireland. A roach, a skimmer and a reasonably decent carp. And Grant's doing the honours. What's there, guys? Over 2 kilos. Oof. Just going to have to do some maths after this, I reckon. This is going to be very, very close. They're not behaving themselves either. Get through this one. Need to find out what's going on elsewhere.
2 kilo, 500.
So, Nick Howell from Ireland, 2 kilo, 500 from peg 7.
And here we are, peg 15, Vince Walsh. Now, just one fish here. It's been quite a difficult last period. I must say he's fished a sterling match over here, but we just have the one fish to show for it. It's not, we feel, going to be enough for Ireland. It's certainly over the kilo mark.
1 kilo, 390.
1 kilo, 390, and that concludes the scores for Ireland.
Well, this is the final net for Poland on peg 2. Let's have a look. Yes, Mick, if you'd like to bring it out of the water. Adam Niemiec, the angling journalist. This is final net, and there's certainly a carp in there for him. Let's see what this final net has for them. He had a better afternoon session, really, of it than he did earlier on in the competition. But let's see what's in this one. It's really, really close for second place. Is this going to be enough for them to take second place in that £5,000, or is it going to go to Ireland or Holland? Let's have a look. Possibly just the one fish, just that one carp in there. If you want to pop that on the scales for us, Barry, and we'll get a final weigh from peg number 2.
One kilo, 600 grams.
1 kilo, 600 grams from peg 2, and Rob Dorset has his compatriot over on peg 10.
Yeah, Wojtek Kaminski, what a final hour or so he had. He's here putting his kit away. He doesn't know yet whether he's helped Poland to second spot. Let's get his bag in. He's got one big carp in there. Is it going to be enough? It's a big, big mirror carp. I can see those big scales glistening through that net. It's going to be a fantastic finish. It really is. And the Dutch are holding round as well. Jurgen Spearing is waiting to see how big this fish is as well. It really is quite tense down here for second spot. There's a little skimmer in there as well, which I didn't see him catch in all of the excitement. But that's a decent-sized carp. Where are we? For Wojtek Kaminski on peg 11 for Poland.
2 kilos, 560.
2 kilos, 560 added to the Polish total. Let's get the maths done pretty quick because it's getting very exciting.
Yes, well, while we wait for the maths to be done, we're going to do the final net for Des here on peg 1. Thanks, Mick, if you want to pull that one out. And we'll have a look and see what Des can add to his total. He did say to me when he was leading the individual earlier, he didn't think it would last, and it looks like Will has taken it, Des. Let's see what's in your final net and have a look at this. As Mick gets the fish out, we'll give it a last weigh here for this England one there. That's what's in there. Let's have a look. Some plenty of skimmers in there for him. No big carp in the end for Des, but let's have a look. All in? Right, let's have a look and see what this is then. Final net for Des Ship weighs in at
2 kilos, 600.
2 kilos.
1 kilo, 600.
Sorry, 1 kilo, 600 for Des Ship. Rob Dorset has Will Raisin.
Yeah, I've got Will Raisin here on peg 9. He's won it individually. Let's try and get this one in there. There's very little to add to it. It's one skimmer, I think. Will, you had a quiet time there right at the end, didn't you?
Yeah, quiet time, but I was really lucky. I've had a big fish that was hooked just outside the mouth, so. But they all count, and like I say, the team plan worked perfectly today. Last year we had to change really early after half hour, but like I say, we managed to pull it back, and today I think the meeting we had, Mark Downs, Mark Addy, Alan, myself and Des last night, after watching yesterday and that, I think we've got it spot on today, and it's really gone well.
And here we go, it's all official now. France, unfortunately for them, they came and they entertained us. Some great characters in their pair this year, Gilles Cordin and Jean Dosquet, with the 10.42 kilos. Hungary came an awful long way for the experience, 12.46 kilos. Over the border, Wales, 21.82. Scotland, a disappointing finish for them, 23.8 kilos. Ireland, Poland and Holland, right up to that final weighing, were vying for second place. Holland have just edged it. England were way ahead. Let's give them the trophy. Let's go down to the podium, and John McDonald.
The winners receiving the magnificent trophy, £10,000. But most important of all, the title of Betway FishOMania International Champions 2014, retaining the championship. It's Team England!
Well, thanks to John McDonald, our Master of Ceremonies there. Trophy in the hand. A very tidy £10,000 as well, heading to Team England, which will bolster the resources. Fully deserved for well, a national federation that have just got it right. Isn't it lovely to say about one of our sports? Let's just wrap things up with the roll of honour today. England, as we know, £10,000 richer, the international champions. £5,000 going to the Dutch guys as they take that back across the water. The junior champion, Cameron Cross, that was mightily close at the end as well, wasn't it?
Less than 3/4 of an ounce.
Wow, and the biggest fish, yet again, English, will raise at £1,000 for an absolute monster. Is it 4.2 kilos as it was lurched out of the water? Congratulations to the Dutch and the Irish who made a contest of it, with Poland as well. But isn't it nice to say that England rule the world, rule Europe, and have won a major competition on World Cup final weekend?